Okay. So today's topic we have to discuss is about classes and objects. What really is a class and object? Okay. To understand this, right? First of all, let's just review the syntax again of class creating a class. So the syntax of creating a class looks like this. You will add a access modifier like this. Okay. This is an access modifier. This is an access modifier. Then you will use the keyword as class, right? Which is this, which is just a keyword which you have to use if you want to create a class. And then you need to provide a class name, right? It will, again, you can provide the class name as per your best understanding, what you think, but it should represent like an entity. Let's say you are creating a Java program for a school, right? So there are students, teachers, right? All those entities you're trying to create a class for them. So what you'll do is you can use public class student to represent a student, right? So similarly, but what nomenclature you should follow is you should use camel case. What camel case means is that let's say uh, let's say I want to create student demo, right? So what I'll do is I'll keep S as capital. This is the first word of it, and the second word is demo. So D of demo would be capital. Okay. Now what happens because of this? Now wherever you will see a word which follows this nomenclature in your entire program, right? You will straight away get to know, okay, because this is using camel case and it is starting from, I mean, this follow this pattern. So then it should definitely be a class, right? That is what it interface. Okay. So it really helps you when you are reading through someone else code also, because there you get to know like, okay, this is what someone would have written, right? And it really helps to build up that understanding in the framework or any piece of code. So you should remember this part. So the next thing after this is that you need to praise, okay, the braces here, and so this is like the body of your class. Inside the body of the class you can create variables. We'll talk about what are different types of variables: instance variables, local variables, static variables, and all that. But variables are there. Then you create methods. People would be knowing methods, functions, right? Whatever you want to give name, this is what there are, right? These are all residing in the class. So this is the structure of a class, and it will have constructors, right? And we'll talk about like what all it can have, what all it cannot have. But my area of discussion today is like what is a class, not these, right? Not these. I'm not focusing on these parts today. I'm just focusing on how to create a class and what really a class is and why you should create a class. After this, we'll be talking about objects, right? We should be very clear what is an object and what is a class. People should not be using these terms interchangeably. That is not expected, right? And after this today's class, you should be very clear on that also. Okay. So object, class, reference variable, all of these words, right? We should be very clear on this now after this today's class. So let's start this. And okay, how do you create an object? Let me write a syntax for that also, first of all. So the syntax is you will use the class name here. How do you create a variable? Let's say I'm asking you to create a variable for a variable which will hold an int value. You do something like this, right? First of all, you define data type. First of all, you define data type like int, right? Then you give the variable name. Let's say age, right? And then you do a equal to sign, right? And then you assign a value. That is what we do. Let's say, right? In case of creating an object, right? See the syntax here. Class name, you will get a class name. So what is a class name here? Let's say student demo. So I will use student demo. This is the class name. Here, after this, right, we will provide a variable name. Okay. The exact thing is we say it as reference variable. Okay. This is what is termed as reference variable. So student demo, let's say I say S1 here, right? Then you provide a equal to sign. See, compared to this, right? As you were creating a local variable, I mean a variable like this, and here we are trying to create an object. So this is the class name, right? This is the class name. It's a reference variable. Then if you have to create an object, right, you have to use a keyword named as new, right? So it's a keyword. So it will always be used when you intend to create an object. Okay, great. After this, right, what you need to do is you need to again provide the class name here. Okay. Now people may think like, why do we need to use class name here also and here also, right? You will get that answer later on. Okay. I will not be explaining this today because it will not be very easy to understand that part. But when we talk about interface and everything, right, it will make things very clear. But as of now, just understand that this is the syntax, right? You use the class name, then you provide the reference variable, you use new keyword as a keyword, and then you use the class name. Now, where is the object? Where is the object getting created? This right hand side, right? Okay, first of all, these bracket needs to be closed and a semicolon. Right hand side, right? What you are doing over here, right? All this is an object. Okay, this is what you are creating an object. Whenever you use new keyword, right? It means you are creating an object. As simple as that, right? And the right hand side is termed as an object. This s1 here, right? People say that s1 is an object. Again, this is I mean, this is easier because object is like a very small word, and as compared to reference variable, right? So people tend to say s1 is an object, s1 is an object, right? S1 is not an object. S1 is a reference variable which is holding an object, which is pointing to an object. But how the object is getting created? The object gets created through this. Now the question is, what is really an object, right? I'm saying object, object, but what is an object and what is a class, right? So, but as of now, but just understand that this is how the syntax looks like. So for a class, you will do something like this, okay? And for creating the object of this class, you will do something like this, okay? Let's move ahead. Now, to understand this, right? Let's first understand what is a class. Now, class, you can understand like class is like a blueprint, okay, or a template. Understand that way, right? So let's say that okay, let me first write. It is like a blueprint or it's a template, right? Now, what do you understand from this terms? Like, what do you get in your head, right? When you say this, it means something like that. It is something which can be reusable. Like you define like, okay, the structure of that thing. Let's say let me think of an example. Blueprint. Let's say that you're trying to create the blueprint, right? Blueprint is a word derived from the civil engineering, right? That you create a blueprint of a design, or let's say a blueprint of a building, right? Where you tell, okay, this is how the building will look like. Okay, and then what you can do is you can use that blueprint to create multiple copies of it, right? And then if required, you can make some modifications in it. So blueprint, and similarly template, right? Template is something, yeah, template is something again which is giving just the structure of it, right? It does not contain anything inside this, but it is like a structure. And then again, you could use that structure wherever you need. Okay, uh, so that
So
is what a
it's like a
blueprint.
predefined format. So, for example,
Right.
if we are to write a leave application, no, we generally go to
Hmm,
Google and
hmm,
check
hmm.
for predefined formats, and then we amend them to our needs, right? So,
Right, that is what it really is, right? Let's say that again, it's a good example. Let's consider this, right? If you're writing a leave application, you leave out the dear and the space after it, right? Then you leave, okay, the date part in it, right? So that you could fill it as per the need of the person who is using it, right? So similarly, that is what a class really represents. It's like a template which can be used, and whatever you could fill in there is already provided in the template, right? And then as per your need, I can provide a value. Let's say I am using the template, I will fill Akhil. Let's say Atul is using it, Atul will say Atul there, right? And similarly others. So it is like a blueprint which can be used by a lot of people, right? So so that they can make it as their own. That is what the template or blueprint means in a literal meaning. I mean literal way, right? I think it will become more clear if we take more constructive examples, real world examples, right? Let's talk about a scenario, right? Let's say again, let's understand from the point. Let's say that if we consider a real world situation, right? Again, I take this example very often. Let's say I have a school building, right? I have a school, right? I have a school, and within the school I have teachers. Okay, so I have teachers here. So these are all teachers, right? So let's say I'm creating one component teacher. There's another component which is with the name as student. Okay, then there is another component which is termed as, let's say, classes, right? And let's keep it simple, and let's say these are the only three things. Now, in these three things, right? Let's say the school decided, okay, everything is done manually there, okay, and now school has thought, okay, now I want to use, the software, right, so that I can do my daily things instead of maintaining registers and all. So let's use programming now. Let's get the software done. Now what I'll do is they call a software developer, and software developers, they told everything. Okay, this is how my school is. This is how they work. Now the software developer was using Java to write the software. So what they did is they tried to create the entities for everything. Right? When I say entity, right? Entity is like, let's say in a school, right? You could have, let's say, 10 different teachers, right? Teacher one, teacher two, teacher three, right? Similarly, students could be thousands, S1 to S1000, right? Now classes, again, you could have n number of classes. Let's say 30 classes are there, right? C1, C2, C3, right? All of that. Now we have to understand the characteristics of teachers, right? When you say there are 30 teachers, right, or 10 teachers, so if you would start looking at them, right, all the teachers have like common attributes, right, with them, right? Let's say if you're talking to teacher T1, right, so the teacher would be having a name, there would be a subject which she would be teaching, right? There would be, the age of the teacher, right, the gender of the teacher, and similarly the other things, right, which a teacher will have, right? If you compare this teacher with another teacher, that teacher will have the same attributes, but the values would be different, right? One could be a maths teacher, other could be English teacher, but these are the important attributes which a teacher should have, and they both have it, right? Similarly the other teachers. But if you start comparing this teacher to a student, then the attributes are also different, right? The age could be a common thing, but again, apart from it, right, a student could be what is the age, again, what is which class that student is a part of, right? A teacher could be like teaching all the classes, a student could be a part of this, right? So if you understand this way, right, you are trying to classify things into similar buckets, right? And inside that bucket, right, you think that the attributes which all these different things have are common, right? That's why we clubbed it into three different buckets: teacher, student, class, and all that. And why? Because they have same attributes, right? Similar attributes. Now now by doing this, right, it became easier for me as a developer to conceptualize like how the interaction happens between teacher, student, and class, right? And to define this this particular thing, right, into my programming thing. When I say a word entity, right, teacher is one entity, okay, student is another entity, class is another entity, and for a single entity you could create multiple variants of it, okay, like teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, okay. So let's talk about this teacher first. Let's say this is a teacher, right? So let's say this teacher over here has let's talk about the attributes which the teacher will have. So let's say the teacher will have a name, okay, a teacher will have the age, okay, a teacher will have, let's say, the subject which the teacher teaches, right? Let's say the class teacher, let's say the class which for which she is the teacher of. So let's see this information, right? And maybe some other information, right, which are vital for the teacher. Okay, so these all will be sitting there. Now let's talk about a student, right? For a student, right, again, let's say name is one attribute which that student will also have. Let's see age of this, right, of the student. Let's say, okay, the gender also was there, right? And similarly here also, right? So it's not that everything has to be different, but the way student behaves and teacher behaves are very different, right? Because the job of teacher is to teach, right? Student is to learn, right? So so again, you will understand when I will create more examples here, but try to understand, right, what are the attributes a student can have. So it can again have some friends name, right? I can add who are the friends of the student, right? What all teachers teaches the student, right? Teacher's name, right, per subject, teacher's name per subject. So that is another information which we can try to get for the student. Let's say another information about teacher's name, class teacher name here, right? Who is the class teacher for it? Similarly, the class, right? When you talk about class, you can talk about, okay, what is the name of the class, right? The name of the class. Let's say which floor this class is on, what is the seating capacity of this of the class, seating capacity, right? So these are different attributes which a entity can have. And let's say we have two teachers, right? T1, T2, right? Both have these entities, but both will have like here, right? T1 have, let's say, a name Akhil here, second is Atul there, right? And the ages of his, right? And similarly, what subjects they teach and all that, right? Similarly, students could be hundreds of students, but all those students will have these attributes only. Similarly, we can have 30 classes, but all 30 classes will have these attributes, right? Now an entity, right? An entity can have attributes like this, which I showed, right? Plus it can have some behaviors. When I say behaviors, what does it mean? Behavior means that something which they can act, right? So let's say, what are the behavior of a teacher? So a teacher's behavior is, you can understand behaviors like actions which that entity can take. Okay, let's talk about teacher. So the entity, the action could be, let's say, the teacher, the uh, so what one is one of the actions, right? Or one of the behavior of a teacher is that they teach, right? So teach is one of the behavior of a teacher, right? Let's say set exam, right? That is another behavior which a teacher has. Okay, let's say uh, what we say, conduct workshops, right? Let's say that is another behavior a teacher can have, right? Similarly, walk, right? Walk is also a behavior, right? Teacher will also be walking, right? Let's say teach, right? Again, all this, right? So these are like different behaviors. These are different behaviors. So an entity can have an attribute like what I just detailed it out, and second, it can have certain behaviors. Similarly, student can have a lot of behaviors, like a student can play, right? How does it play? The logic of it. See, when I say behavior, right? Behavior is something where the logic will tell, okay, how does the entity behave, right? So when we talked about this student here, right? It can play the so how does it play? What does it play, right? That is kind of a behavior. Second is study. What does it he study or she studies on, right? And all that, right? Similar to all of that. Similarly, class, right? A class can be like I will have to think of a behavior here, but it can also have some behaviors, right? So my point is, if you, first of all, you will have to identify an entity. Within that entity, you will look for two things. One, the attributes of it. Attributes are like variables. Okay. Now, okay. So attributes, and second is the behavior. Now you did all of this, right? Just to understand like what are these two things for an entity. Why we did all of this? So that you could translate your real world thing into a programming world. Why? Because what we will do now is, this for this entity you will create a class. First of all, for this attributes, right, you will create variables in that class, right? And for the behaviors you will create methods. Okay, so what is happening here is, you will first identify an entity. You will first try to identify the entity from the given statement. You will get that entity, and then from that entity you will try to see what are the attributes and behaviors that entity can have. Once you identify them, right, then your job is half done, right? The second half will start when you will start translating that real thing into a programming world by creating classes. So that entity, for that entity you will create a class, and for within that class you will have variables which will represent the attributes, and the methods which will represent the behavior of the entity. So this is why, this is how the class looks like, right? Now if you would look back the structure of the class again, did I created? Yeah, you see here, right? These methods here, right? You created a class. Okay, let me create a class here itself now. Let me create a class for teacher, right? What I'll do is, someone asked me to create a class for teacher. What I'll do is, I'll create a class, public class teacher. I will open up the braces, and then first of all I will create the first attribute for the teacher. I will say, okay, name is there. Let me add a variable string name. So now I translated this real world into a programming world. Like I have a string name. Okay. Age. Okay. I think the best attribute, the best data type for it is int. So I will say age here. Then there's a subject, right? Subject teacher, right? The subject which this teacher is a master of. So let's say again I will use string here, and I will use subject here. Okay. And then similarly for the gender, I will use, let's say, caret, right? Care to mention gender, right? M or F, right? Similarly, let's say the class teacher. I'll use the string variable here, right? The class teacher. So, and now let me add the behavior. So these are all the attributes here. So these are now how did you represent it? By creating some variables. After this, I will create some behaviors, right? Behaviors is, let's say I talked about teach, right? So I will create first behavior. The first behavior will look like this: public, let's say void, and teach. Okay. And then inside this, I will create a behavior saying, let's say, whatever logic I want, right? I can add here. But just for example, I will say system.out.println, and I will add here. I like to teach via workshops. Okay, let's say, or hands-on. Okay, so similarly, so this is like a behavior, right? Behavior, you could see behavior. I will use this word very interchangeably. Behavior, methods, right? If I whenever I'm saying behavior, it means methods. When I'm saying methods, it means behaviors. Okay, and why I do that, I'm doing it because of this reason, which I just explained, right? This behavior over here is equivalent to method here, and attributes here is an equivalent to variables there. Okay, and this entity is a part of this. I mean, is represented by a class here. So that is what a class will look like, and you will end up this class, and this is your class being created. Now you will say, okay, Akhil, I have two teachers there who were let's say, I mean, uh, I mean, let's say T1, T2, right? Let's say Akhil and Atul, right? They were two teachers, but you have created a general thing here, right? Where I cannot see any details of Akhil or Atul, right? But that is what the intention is, right? It is like a blueprint here, right? Now I can use this blueprint to create two teachers, or let's say 100 teachers or 1,000 teachers, right? That is what I meant by when I said that a class is a blueprint or template. Now I created a template here. What, let's say tomorrow the size of the teachers increased, right? I do not have to do anything. I just have to use this template only to define new teachers. How do I create new teachers? I just have to simply do this. I will say teacher. Let me give a name as Akhil. A should be small. New teacher, and that's it. Now what I'll do is I will say, or let me not use Akhil. Let me write T1 here. Okay, let me write T1 here, right? And again I will do teacher. Let's say for Atul I will create T2 and new teacher here. And now what I'll do is I will say, now let's say I have to define values for T1 and T2, right? So now T1 was for Akhil, right? So I will do T1 dot name equals to Akhil, right? And similarly, I will do all the values, right, for all the subjects. And similarly for Atul also, I will do what? T2 dot name, right? So this is for Atul. Now, so this should be very clear, right? What I'm doing here, you create a template here, and for that template, you are creating multiple objects here. Okay, that is what object means. Let me show you here in terms of some graphical part. So what I'm doing is I created a template saying teacher here, right? A teacher here, which had some attributes like variables, some variables, variable one, one, two, and all that. And then I have some methods, M1 method, M2 method, right? All of that. Now this is a template, right? Whenever I will create an object for it. What will happen is you can understand, like, it will take from here and it will create a object here. Let's say T1, right? When I did, I created a new object. Okay, Tushar. Okay, so Tushar also joined. Just a second. Okay, yes, Tushar. Hi, Tushar. Yes, you can tell me when you want to ask something. We cannot hear you, Tushar, if you're saying something. Okay. Can you add in the chat? Okay. By the way, Tushar has joined us today, so but I didn't know like he's joining today. But great. Once your mic starts working, right? Tell me. Also ask you to introduce yourself. Okay. Let's move ahead. Right. So okay, Tushar is here. Just a second. Huh? Hey, hi Tushar. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Akhil. Yes, I can hear.
Great, great, Tushar. So everyone, Tushar's today is first day for Tushar. Tushar, can you also introduce yourself to the entire team? It would be great.
Yeah, so myself, Tushar, I'm working with the tier Every and having over 4 years of experience as a manual tester and looking for to switch my role into automation testing. And I have enrolled in one of the test type community class with Akhil. So I like the teaching style of Akhil, and yeah, that's why I joined this class.
Thank you, Tushar. We're glad to have you here. I hope
Yep.
you will learn a lot here. And let's start. Right? Did you have any query to ask, Tushar?
No, Akhil, no, not at all.
Okay, okay. I thought okay, but thank you for joining. Okay, let me continue. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so where I was, yes, I was telling you this, right? So what I did was like, let's say I wanted to create a teacher one, right? So this is like a class here, right? This is a class here, and I have created T1 object, right? So now I want to create another teacher. What I'll do is I'll just create a new object, right? And that's where it goes there, right? So T2 here. Similarly, I can keep on doing this like as many times as I want, and I will. It's like a copy of this template getting created every time, right? So from this template, a copy gets driven, right? It's like a copy which is being passed, right? Right? And this is given to this T1. So now T1 represents this copy now. Okay. Similarly, when you created T2, right, a copy of this template was formed and was assigned to this T2. Now, what is happening because of this? They both have their own copy created from this template. And now, if T1 makes some changes in his copy, right, it will not have an impact on the copy of T2. That is what the purpose of creating objects. These are like copies of those templates, right? Why? So that there is no interlinking, right, between these two copies, and both can work standalone as per their need and expectations. So they can change their behavior, they can add some attributes, they can not add attributes, but they can provide the values of the attributes as per their need, right? And similar, and they can modify their behaviors as per the need, right? Depending on the logic which is mentioned there. Okay, so that is what the purpose of creating an object is. So again, let me repeat. When you say a class is like a blueprint or a template, right, which you create, right? Something like a structure or a guideline, right? You just create a structure there. Now, once you create that structure, what you will need is, as per your need, you will start creating the objects of that class, of that structure. What does that object creation means is like, it means that a copy of the template, right, would be taken and would be assigned to that variable, to that object, right? And similarly, you created multiple objects here, right? And now you have so many objects, right, which are independent of each other, right? But try to see the value, right, which you are getting. You do not have to define classes again and again for three different teachers, right, which are a part of the same entity, right? Teacher is one entity, right? So anytime you create a teacher, right, you have just see how drastically you're reducing your work. You created a template once, and now you're good for forever, right? You created a template, and whenever you need in the future, right, to create a new teacher, what you have to do is you just have to create an object. That's it. And you will set the variables, you will call the behaviors as per your need whenever you need. And these and whatever objects you create, right, are not interlinked. They will not talk to each other. They will not interfere in each other's work. Okay, leaving aside the part of static thing, which we will talk later. But apart from it, everything else, right, are like they get their own set of copies. Okay, any question on this part? what is a class, what is an object, and why, what really I mean, right? When I say class is a template, and when I say object is like a copy of that, it's like a copy being derived from the template, right? It's a copy of the template, right? Isolated copy of the template, isolated copy of the template. So you can have as many copies as you want, and they will not interfere with each other's work. Okay. Any question on this part, or if someone did not understood what I mentioned, we should be very clear on this part. Like, what is a class? What is an object? We should not be using the words interchangeably with class or objects. And now I will come to the reference variable also. But although I've already explained, but yeah, that is how it is. Any questions on this one? Okay, Kusuma, any questions on this one, or is it clear with you? Kusuma, you there? Okay. Tushar? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
no doubt, Akhil.
No doubt. Okay, great, great. So let's move ahead. Now, what we need to do is, what we
One
should
question,
do is,
Akhil.
yeah,
Akhil.
please, Atif. Yeah, please, Atif.
Yeah. So if you like see like for a class we can create multiple objects. So can we say that class is also a collection of objects?
No,
No.
no, no, no.
Okay.
Collection is a different thing, right? Collection is could be like this. Let's say you have so many. Let's say you created 10 different classes here, 10 different teachers here, right? And now you say, okay, what I'll do is I will create a common group of, let's say, teachers above 45 years of age, right? And then that is a collection, right? You're trying to create a collection of such a group which represents those things, right? So what you can do is, let's say T1 is a part of that group, right? T3 is a part of that group. So you will use the concepts of collections, which is like creating a group of that behavior, right? And you will put T1 there and T3 there, right? Or whatever teachers fits into that category. So there, that is like a group there which you're creating. But you cannot say like a class is like a collection of objects. No, a class is just a template, a blueprint. That's it. Whatever happens because of this is not what the responsibility of class. So class said, okay, I have defined myself. Whoever wants to use me, please use it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. I think we're good to go ahead. Okay. Now the next thing, right? Class and object. And okay, going back to this part, right? When I said about this reference variable, right? Okay, I think it's time to start doing things, but okay, just remember this syntax, right? When I said class name, reference variable, new, and the class name again. This class name and this class name, you as of now, right? Till I explain it further, just assume that both the places the class name would be same, here also and here also. Okay, and this entire part on the equal to sign is object. This s1 is a reference variable which you're creating. Okay, and this is how the entire thing is done to create an object here. That's it. And this is the structure of the class. Let's try to implement this. And what I'll do is I'll use this example only, which I just explained about school, teacher, class, right? Now I need input from you all. You tell me how many classes should I create? Let me ask one by one, right? Let me ask Siddesh. Tell me one of the class which I should create as part of my software which I want to design for that school.
So,
This is the structure.
mhm.
Where is that? This one, right? So tell
so
me.
we can create the three classes. One class from teacher, one from student, and another one is class.
Okay. Is okay. Anyone thinks we should do more or less?
One for a school at least, I believe.
Yes, right? Because that is another entity we have, right?
Yes.
Right. So what I'll do is I'll create 4 classes: school, teacher, student, and class. Okay. And just to avoid the class and class thing in Java, right? I will do it like class P, let's say, right? Class P. Okay. So that we can avoid the, or I can use some other words. Can we have another word for class? Let's say
Classroom.
Classroom.
classroom. Yes, yes, great. That is how we should do. Okay, classroom, right? Great. Okay. So let's start creating it. Okay, before creating it, right, let's design it. Okay, let's design it. So what I'm saying is, I will create a class for school, right? First of all, so this is my school. Okay, so this is my school. This is my school, and what I'll do here is I will create some variables here. So within the school, right, I need the name of the school. Okay, I need the address of the school. Let's say I need to know the principal of the school. Okay, and let's say what all? Let's say how many teachers I have, right? Teachers count. Teachers count I need, and let's say student count is again student count I need, right? And similarly, let's say behaviors, right? Let's say I want to display the I want to calculate what.
On display latest results, maybe.
Yes, maybe yes. Display results, right? Let's say display results. Let's say, right? Display result of our entire school, right? Or let's say when I say display result, right? Let's say I want to just find the total, the average pass percentage, right? Average pass
Mm.
percentage of the school, right? Let's say I want to do that, right? So which can help me to achieve what I so that I can do some marketing about my school. So this is a method here, right? Let me write method here. Just display result, right? Okay. Again, when I'm designing this, right? See, again, I'm not teaching how to create data models or something here, right? But I'm just trying to say that you should be in a habit like you should you should have a high level picture, right? When you're creating all this, right? See, again, you are not a developer, you will not be designing all of this, right? But you will require to understand this so that you can create your page object models when you will be working on your automation frameworks, right? Or in on any other piece of thing which you work on. But it is good to understand like that how entities are interacting with each other. Now let's say so these are variables, and let's just add one method here. Similarly, what I'll do is I'll create one teacher entity, and for the teacher entity, again, let me keep things small, otherwise it will take a lot of time. Name, and let's say the subject the teacher is a part of. Okay, and let's say I will add uh, teacher teaching style. Let's say let's say teach only, right? Let's say teach. I will add the behavior, that one of the behavior which teacher has is to teach. Okay, so let's keep it this way only. I'll keep it simple. Similarly, I'll have a student, right? And as for a student, let us add more methods. So behaviors is the student can play, a student can again eat, right? Eat. Let's say another behavior is the student can talk. Okay, I mean, these are different behavior, right? Apart from having the name and again, let's say the age part, right? So we'll have these three methods here and two variables. And what is left? Classrooms, right? Let's say classroom here, classroom here. So these are classrooms, and again, I will just add two things: the floor number of it, right, and seating capacity. Let's say that's it, seating capacity, and let's say the behavior is to clean the room. Okay, so we'll add some behavior like cleaning of the room. Now try to understand that we understood the responsibility of each entity as part of our assignment, and using that part, right, we defined our entities here. And within the entities, we mentioned the variables and the method names. Let's say we this is what we were able to find, and this is what we got. Now let's try to get some interlinking thing, right? Let's again, when I'm doing this part, right, it does not mean that we will be able to implement everything in today's class, right? That is not the intention. You will when I will talk about the interlinking part, right, we need to know a lot of things. But just for the example I'm telling you, right, let's say I want to find the teacher count, right? How can I find a teacher count here? Let's say today I have 50 teacher, right? It is good that I can go and just set in there, right, as of now. But tomorrow the teacher count increases or reduces, so it should be dynamically fine on the runtime. How can I find it? I should have a, let's say, I should be knowing like how to find it, right? So we'll talk about it. Similarly for the student count also. Okay. Now let's say these are different entities defined. Now I want to create the object for it. Ideally, this is just a piece of templates, right, being created. Now the actual thing happens because of the objects, right? So let's start thinking about it. Let's say I have two teachers, right? So I will create two teachers for here, T1 and T2. Okay, T1 and T2. Let's say about talk about students, right? I will have five students, S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. Okay, and then I will have three classes, T1, T2, C3, right? And for school, I have only one school as of now, right? Now think about it, right? We were given an assignment from a specific school, but I can use the entire model for giving a software to another school also. The same things would be applied there also, right? And there I have to just change words. I don't have to change anything here, but I just have to get the data from them. Okay, tell me how many teachers do you have? I will create the classes for you. I will create the objects for you. Similarly, the students and all, right? This is how the see. This is the power of programming, right? And this is the power of designing in this way. You created it once, and then you can reuse it as per your needs. Okay, I think we are good with these things, right? So what I'll do here is now we will get four classes: school, teacher, student, classroom. We have detailed out the attributes and the methods for it, and also I've defined like how many objects we will create for them: S1, T1, T2, S1, and all that. Okay, this is SC, right? Let me write SC1, right? This is S1, S2 for the student, and classroom for this. Let's start designing it. Okay, but let's do an activity, right? Why to just watch this? I'm giving you, you already know, right? Okay, let me do it one. Let me do one, and I will then ask you to create all of this in your repos also. Okay, and we will push it in our own repos. Okay, so let's start doing it. What I'll do is, this is I've already created day for branch. Let me remove all this, right? I don't need this. Let me clean all this. So I have removed this part, and we are good. Let me create a new class. So again, you can see I am on the Java folder. I have removed whatever I had, and now I will create a class. Let's say about school. Okay, I will create for school. Just to explain you, create for school. This is my school. I've created a class for it. Now I need four parameters, right? So what are those parameters? Name, address, principal, teacher count, student count. So what I'll do is string. So I think we have not talked about the data types, right? Or did we? We have not talked about data types, right? Everyone?
Yes.
We
We have not.
touched upon them briefly.
Okay, we just touched upon it, right? Okay. So again, if you know what data type to use, please use it. If you don't know, then don't attempt. Okay. But I'm sure like people would be aware about this. We will have a good discussion on the data types also, maybe tomorrow. But let's try to create some classes today, right? And whatever knowledge you have, use that to create classes. I'm just creating one so that everyone gets aware. So what I did was I mapped. Okay, let me create it in next way. Let me split it up here and okay, just a second. Let me do it quickly now. Okay, so name is done. I want to have the address also. Address. Okay. One thing when you're creating a variable, right? Don't use capital letters in the first word, right? If you have two words, the first word should start from small thing, right? Let's say I have uh, what student count, right? Let's say teacher count here. What you should do is teacher is one word, count is another word, right? So what you should do is T should be small of the first word, but for every consecutive word, right, which you may have after this, start it with camel case. Count. Let's say you have another word, let's say demo. You will start with D and then demo, right? But it should always start from a small letter so that anyone can look into it and get to know, okay, this must be either a variable or a method. Okay, that is what it helps you to identify there. Okay, so let me add this. So here address is just one word, so I'll use A to be small. You add semicolons after you're done, and let's add principal, right? Again, principal. Let me write. I hope I'm writing the right spelling of principal. Okay, principal, and then int. Let's say teacher count. Teacher count, and again I need another variable for student count. right? And let's add one method. How to create a method that we learned yes that time. Access modifier. Let's say I don't want to return anything. I just want to print. I'll use a void, and then I will say display result, right? Display result, right? And here, as of now, I'll just add one behavior as is saying uh, every student passed with flying colors. Okay, we can modify the result, right? We can accept some inputs from the user, right, over here, and accordingly we can make some calculations inside this and get the output. But as of now, I'm just creating like a placeholder just so that we can have some methods and something inside this. Okay, we will improve on all of these. But let's say that I create a school like this. And what I'll do is I've created a school, and that's it. And let me just push it to my repo. So what I'll do is okay, sorry. Uh, add git commit -m, and let's say uh, add school class. Okay, now school class, and let's push it to git push origin day 4. Day 4, right? Git push origin day 4. Okay, so my changes are pushed, and this is how my repo should look like. Let me check out here. Now see this. What I did was I've already shown for school, right? This is how the school looks like. I just did this. Every student's passed with flying colors, and then I create a class called teacher, name and subject. And see, this is what I asked the failure to do. I have not added a main method yet, right? I have not added a main method in school, in teacher, in student, or in classroom. And you can see how I am using these variables. You can see in this classroom method, I use this variable seat count. Here, I'm not accepting as an input in this method. I'm rather using the method with the variable which is provided in the class itself. Similarly, in the other case, right? Okay, now see this, right? In this particular class, student, right? I am accepting one variable, a certain variable which I was not collecting as an attribute of student, right? Rather, whoever wants to invoke this play method, right? They need to provide me one input about the game name, and I'm saying I enjoy playing that game, right? Whatever that is, right? So I am accepting a variable which was for which I did not had a value from the above, right? But I still wanted a variable like this so that I can work on my logic within that method. Okay, that is what it is. Okay, leave it. See again, a lot of discussions today, right, would go over the head about methods and everything, since we have not discussed. But it will make, but everything will become clear once we start discussing the methods and all. But my intention today is that you get the hang of how to create a class, how to create variables inside it, and how to just create a method inside this. Okay. Okay, great. Now we have four of these classes, right? Now let's say I wanted to create some what we say. Just a second. Now I wanted to create these variables, right? These schools and all that, right? What I will do at least, right, from my end, since these are separate entities, what I'll do is I'll create a separate class from where I will start the logic of where I will have the magic method. So I'll create a separate class saying what I should say. Let's say let me give any name. Demo. Uh, let's say dummy run. Okay. Let's say dummy run, and let me get a class. And inside this dummy run, what I'll do is I'll create my magic method main, and over here I will do what? I will start creating the instance of the classes which I need. Let me first try it for school. So let me split it in the right mode so that I can see both the classes. So this is my dummy run, this is my school, and now what I'll do is I'll do something like this: school S1. Let me give a name of the school, right? Name is not good. Okay, let me use S1 only. S1 or SC1, and what I'll do is new school. Now what I did, right? you can see this is where this is if you have to create if you have to create use this template which I created with school, right? So what I have to do is I have to create an object, and this is the line which I have to write to do that operation. On the right hand side, right, this is where the object creation is happening. Okay, this is a reference variable which is pointing to this object, and this is again the class name, reference variable name, new keyword, and the class name again, right? So you can see in both left and right, school is being mentioned. Okay, now let me use this one to set some values. I will say sc1, and I need to set the value for name, address, principal, right? Let me use it. So I'll say name, and I will get a name as uh, let's say Balbhavan. Okay, Balbhavan, and let's say sc1 dot address. Let me provide the address as Noida, and let's say the principal name, right? So principal name is again what, string only, right? So I will say Mr. Bector. Okay, let's say this. Now I have set the values, and whenever I want, I can invoke this method, display result, right? Whatever that is. Now let's create the object for teacher class. Now, Siali, you tell me what should I do if I have to create the object of teacher class here? What should I type?
uh, object of
Teacher. I have to create the object of teacher. What should I do here?
um, teacher.
Hmm? I have to create T1 teacher right now.
Yeah, T1 equal to
T-
new.
Okay.
What we are going to give their name, for example, teacher name.
Teacher name.
No, what we are going to do, what we need to give there. That's what I'm asking. The way we give the new school in that
So
way. So
yes,
teacher only, right?
yes.
Teacher. Yeah.
So you have to remember the general syntax, right, which I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
So on the left hand side here also and here also, the class name will come. So to remember the syntax, right, it is very simple. These two parts are very clear. It will be
Yeah.
same as your class name. What is your class name? Teacher, right? So you fill this up. This is new, which I did. This is new, and this is T1 here, right?
Yeah.
And now what I'll do is let's say D1
T1
T1
dot
name,
name.
right?
Yeah,
Because I
name.
want to set the value of it. So I'll say
T1 dot
T1
name
dot
equal.
name
So you'll
equals
pass
to,
the value now. What the name should be?
yes, we should provide the name. Let's say any name, right?
We
Let's
can
say
give.
Kiran, right? Let's say Kiran
Okay.
is one of the teachers. So I will again provide the subject. Let's say mathematics.
Mathematics. Yeah.
Okay, let's say maths. Right. So I've given both the information, right?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
let's do it for the other thing. Let me ask someone else. Uh, who's there? Let me ask Jaswant. Jaswant, you there?
Yes, sir.
Now tell me, I want to create. I've done for school. I've done for teacher. I want to do it for student. Now tell me how to do it. I want to create an object of student with the name as S1. So what should I type here?
Yeah. Student S1 equal to new student.
Student S1 equals to new student, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now tell me some values for it. I need two inputs. One is name.
S1 dot name equal to Jashwant.
Okay, great. Jaswant. Yes.
Yeah.
What is your
And
age, Jaswant?
S1 dot age equal to 25.
24. Okay,
25.
great. 25. Okay, 25, right? A young age, right? So great. So we have name and age, right, for student one. Similarly, you can create multiple copies. I mean, multiple objects. Let me create another object. Let's say for myself, I am also a student. So let's say I am creating S2 here, and what I'll do is I will type here Akhil, right, and I will say let's say 35. Okay. Now this is what I did. So what I did, right, I have used the school template to create one copy of school, and this is the values of the attributes which I've set inside that copy. Similarly, for teacher, I created one copy of the teacher class, and I'm referring it by the name as T1, and I've set the value of that attribute. And for the student thing, right, I created 2 copies of the student class, right, and I'm setting the values like this. Okay, here I've done a mistake. It has to be S2, right, because that is the name of that object here. Now, and let me do the last thing. What is for that classroom, right? For classroom, Sidesh, if you can tell me what should I type here?
Uh,
Let
you
me
can
open
create
the
the
let me open classroom just on the right hand side. Yeah, tell me. What should I
so
type here?
you can create the object of classroom. Classroom
Hmm.
C1,
Classroom C1
then equal to new
new.
classroom constructor. We can say that,
Okay.
right?
Should I do this or should I use the brackets there? Tell me that part also.
So bracket required because we are loading the class for that
O-
creating the object.
Okay, great. Now, okay,
I didn't
great.
understood this thing. I just thought that it is part of syntax.
Okay,
What is that thing he said?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. See, again, I'm just trying to ignite that thought right in everyone, and it is good you're catching all those things, right? This is a part of when we'll talk about constructors, right? This part will get clear why these brackets are this way, or why these are empty as of now, or why it will have some values. Okay, we'll understand all of that, but try to understand this has something to do with constructors.
Okay.
Okay, we'll talk about it. What words have you learned, Sally, which we have not covered? Constructors, packages, methods properly. Right? So these are topics
Your
which
voice
you
is
have to learn.
breaking.
Okay. Okay. Just a second.
Uh,
My network would have started
I
giving
missed it.
problems. Just a second. Give me. Okay. I'm saying that you learned three different terms today, right? One is
Yeah.
uh, the constructor, right? Second is the package, and
Yeah.
third is
Yeah.
the how to create method, right? So I'm saying
Yeah.
that keep a tab on it, and you will learn it right as you go ahead. Okay,
Yes.
and these brackets here
Yes.
has to do something with the constructors only. So we'll talk about it. Let me just give some values currently very quickly. C1 dot floor number. Floor number. Let me. It's an int value. So let's say I am on the 4th floor. Okay, and let me just give the seat count of this class. So the seat count is how many seats I want. Let's say 30. Okay, now I have created 4. Let's see this, right? Let us do it very quickly again. So let me close this. Let me close this also, and let's see this here. So what I'll do is I'll put it here, and on this part I will put this here. Okay, this will not be very. Okay, just a second. Let me do it this way. Okay, now try to see this. Okay, so what I've done is as soon as I did this part, which is school S1 equals to new school, right? And I provided some values of the name and thing, right? Like this over here, right? Name, address, and all. So try to understand what happened. As soon as you did this, you created a copy of it, right? And a copy look like this, which is represented by with the name as what? SC1, right? This is SC1. Now let's talk about these 3 parameters only, right? So this copy got this entire copy, right? Name, address, and it's a principal, right? These are 3 things which it had in the blueprint, right? These things were missing, right? Or let's say it had some default values, whatever that the case may be, right? But here, right, in the SC1, I am providing a proper value to them. I am saying name is Balbhavan. I am saying address is Noida, right? And principal is Vector, right? So what is happening here? You created a copy of this school blueprint with the name as SC1, and you are using and you're providing a value to it as per your needs. Let's take the example of students. What we did here, let's ignore this. What we did was we took this and created one copy of it with the name as S1, right? So S1 got its copy, and what is the name here being displayed? Name is Jaswant, and age is 25, right? So this is SC1, S1, right? Similarly, I created another object of it, S2, and it got the copy of the blueprint, and but here I'm using it as per my need. I'm saying name equals to Akil and age is equals to what, 35, right? So try to understand the importance of creating a class which acts like a blueprint, and now using the objects you're creating a copy of those blueprints as per your need, and you can create as many as you want, right? How good it is, right? Or imagine, let's say, if there was a need to create as many classes as many students you had in the class. So if a class had 30 students, right, there would be a need to create 30 different classes, right? And for those 30 classes you would have to create 30 different files. Imagine this, right? How your project structure would look like. But using the concept of Java, right, what you have to do is you will have to represent that thing as an entity. So you created a class for that specific thing, and then you can just create copies of it very quickly by creating the objects and use it as per your needs. Is everyone getting that point? And that is the agenda of today, to explain you the importance of creating classes and the objects of it, and what purpose does it solve. If you understand only this part also now, this is sufficient for me for today. Are we good on this, or does anyone has any doubts on this?
No doubt. But
Mhm.
what you said, the last thing, why we create means.
Okay, if I give you a problem saying that, okay, Sally, I need to design my students, right? I want a program to have so that I need a software program which can hold the data of 30 different students. What will you do? What will you do? Let's say you have one approach where you say, okay, Akhil, what I'll do is, how many students you said? Okay, 30. Let me do one thing. Let me create 30 different classes. Okay, so I'll create S1, S2, student 1, student 2, student 3, and I will create all 30 classes there. So as of now, I have student only one class, right? So I'm saying you will create 30 different classes there, right? If
Uh-huh.
someone takes that approach, and
Yeah.
imagine how many files you will have, and how many
Correct.
duplicate code you're generating with this, right? Whereas compare it to the thing which we are doing currently, we created one class, right, by doing this, and just creating the multiple copies of it by creating the objects,
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Correct.
right? And every copy it's an isolated place where you can have the value with whatever you want, and it will not have an impact into the other copy, right? So S1 is
Correct.
different, S2 is different, all the other students would be different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Got
So
it.
that is the importance which we everyone has to understand about classes and objects. If you understand this part, this is a win for us for today. Okay.